And we are back for another edition of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast presented by Oshweek Speedway as well as Bicknell Racing Products. Thanks to those guys for coming on board and sponsoring this show, being a part of things. Hopefully, we're going to get a new schedule for Osh Weekend, a full schedule, because there are some events at Osh Weekend that you can already find dates for, like the Canadian Sprint Car Nationals. We've got the Pinty's races as well to check out. But more info to come. Be sure you're following Osh Weekend on socials, and of course BRP. If you need a job right now, you want to get started in the racing industry, that might be the place to start, especially if you are a welder or want to operate a CNC machine. So just maybe pop a resume over. You'll get the email address to do that a little later in the show. Travis, this is episode 37. Who do you think of first when you think of the number 37 for local drivers here in Southern Ontario?
Ooh, I got to go with Harry Sittler and Bruce Parks from back in the day, and like the whole Sittler family on the Harry Sittler part. And Andrew's had like 1 million people drive the 37 recently. Right now it's Limburg.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, whole Sittler family for me. And Steven Zelznak said Bruce Parks. So
good pick. Good pick. I'm going personally with, let's go Jeff Bean. Jeff Bean drives the 37 street stock around these parts every once in a while. He's had some fairly good runs in the past as well, and been able to bring home that car on a bit of like a lower budget. So shout out to Jeff and being a guy who makes it to the racetrack and participates every year. And
yeah, he's been around a while.
It's one of those things, right? It's like
also runs pavement sometimes.
Oh, does he? See,
did you know
I
that?
did not know that. It's one of those guys. I've never really had the chance to talk to Jeff. I don't really know much about him besides the 37 machine.
He runs Flamborough a lot. Sometimes he'll do it with the same car, and I think sometimes he has a specific asphalt car too. But I know he's done a lot of Flamborough. I think he's been mostly dirt recently, like last year maybe.
Yeah.
Definitely some asphalt there.
Nice. And you were running virtually Monday night at Weed Sport for the BRP TV iRacing series. The modifieds taking over Weed Sport for the Gary Cunningham Memorial. So it was nice. It was Gary Cunningham Memorial brought to you by us truly, the Southern Ontario Dirt Show. You put up $50 of your own money, which you jinxed it. I think you jinxed it, buddy. You said you didn't want to go to Brandon Plank, and then there it goes.
Yeah. I knew it was a very good chance of that happening, but yeah, it doesn't matter to me. There you go, Brandon, 37 US or whatever it was. And we thought about doing it to the first Canadian. And then Mikey Krutchka the next day said he was going to chip 50, but he said he thought it was coming up. He didn't realize it was the night before. So next year we're already at 100. So there you go.
Perfect. The race is getting more popular and more popular, and that series is growing too. I think we're almost at, I haven't checked today, but going into Monday, we were approaching 100 subscribers to that channel, and I think the average race views are around like 200. Some of the races a bit more popular than that. So it's been a blast having everybody tune in, and it's been a lot of fun calling. We had a pretty decent race. You had not the race I think you wanted to have, but
worked out in the end, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. You got back up there, ended up 11th, so just outside the top 10. That's kind of like your average, right? Like, you're very consistent. I think if you're not finishing, like, it's like 10th, 11th, and 12th. If you don't have problems, that's your main spot.
That's a good miss the wreck spot, and that's what I did on Wednesday. Messed up first lap, ended up at the back, and then there was a bunch more wrecks, ended up in some of those, and then was just kind of riding around in the back, and then was starting to race a little bit later on, and there was Travis Miller, and Pachulski got turned coming out of 4, and he was having a great run. And Susie also had a great run in second, another guy that needed a good run in that series and got one. But Pachulski needed one, and it all came to an end on the last lap there, and Travis Miller got caught up, and it was Calamity Corner. I almost missed it, but I still missed it enough to pass all those guys and finish 11th.
Yeah, it was funny. So Ryan Susie gets the good finish. And speaking of him, it was funny. I didn't write this down or to think to bring it up, but you brought it up now. And you brought up Susie. He was been busy racing TQ midgets, and it was funny because he was down in Atlantic City for that event, and I was listening to a NASCAR podcast, the Stacking Pennies podcast, and one of the pit crew guys that's on the show, Ryan Flores, who's close with Corey LaJoy, he was there racing. So it's is
Yeah,
one of the
he's one of
better
the hitters.
events, one of the more popular events. Yeah, he is apparently. Ended up fourth after having all kinds of problems. He was bitching and complaining about a fourth place finish. I was like, all right, well, obviously holding yourself pretty tight for a crewman to
Mhm. He's really good at
obviously
it
be a
though.
good, pretty decent little driver.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
won a lot.
uh, yeah,
Ryan had a rough go. He
he's an
wrecked,
entertaining
had to
guy.
switch cars, wrecked his
Yeah,
normal car pretty good. He told us all about it in the BRP
but
chat.
he got back at it and brought it home second. Right, it was second,
Susie?
and then Porter was third.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah,
in that. I was talking
in the
about the Atlantic
in
City, but
BRP.
yeah, BRP. Yep,
Yeah,
second for him
yeah,
and third Porter.
redemption for him in the BRP. And yeah, if you haven't watched that race yet, go back and watch it because it gets really entertaining, especially at the end. You mentioned Tyler Pachelski. Anytime you have a wreck from fourth place on back on a green white checker finish as is, it's going to be a bit of a gong show. And that race definitely had all kinds of gong shows at any point, and it was pretty entertaining. But
Yeah,
for a lot of drivers, they're going to be getting ready to grab a seat, grab a chair this Saturday at the Merrittville Speedway driver meeting. So I checked in with Doug Leonard today and was like, do I have to be there for anything? Do you need an announcer for anything? And he's like, nah, you're good. I'm like, perfect, because I'm on air anyways, so I didn't really want to miss the on air day. But exciting stuff. I'm sure there's going to be lots of notes to come out of that, lots of announcements, and hopefully maybe a schedule. That's what I'm waiting for and looking for at this point is hopefully we can start seeing some schedules put together and we can all start marking our calendars, figuring out which races we're going to get to this year and which events we're looking forward to.
yeah. When do they pop out for our? It's been around like mall show, or would like to be sooner.
So that's usually March
Clint
break,
says
if
his is
I'm not
close to
mistaken.
done. I saw that because I rewatched Mack DeMan because he's going to be our guest this week. But I rewatched his thing on Clint's show, and on that one he had mentioned that it was almost done, or it is done pretty much. But yeah, so I don't know about Maryville,
Yeah.
Humberstone. Humberstone, I know I've heard lots of stuff. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and then hopefully Humberstone, Maryville, last weekend they'll all drop around the same time, and us fans in Southern Ontario can start planning
Yeah,
some trips to the
it's one of my
racetrack. And
favorite times of the
speaking of
year.
planning trips, yeah, it's starting to get busy, right? We
Schedules
were
releasing are the
talking a little
first
bit
one that really
before.
gets your blood pumping.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. For me it's actually been all the racing in the States. Like we had some sprint car guys down in Florida
Yep.
racing at Volusia this past weekend and bringing home some fairly good results as well at that. So for me, it's been exciting to watch that. We talked about the Chili Bowl and that kind of got me fired up. This past week, we also had the Rolex 24 Hours Daytona. So for sports car fans and for I feel like that's really the start of speed weeks for like stock cars as well too, even though there wasn't really many stock car drivers in it. But speaking of stock car drivers, a guy that was racing against some of our best down there in Volusia, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. The one night, our boy D Dubs brings it home second and beats Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So how many guys get to say they beat a Cup guy in a sprint car, right?
Yeah, it was definitely a D Dub's kind of track Friday. He loves it when it's hammered down and got some bite in her. But not saying he's not good on the slick stuff either. But like it was up on the top and just foot the foot to the wood and steer it. And D Dub seems to be like he's more used to the 30 lap races, it seems, because I think a lot of our other, like even Liam Martin even said in the redraw on Saturday, like he got tired on Friday because it's like a half mile and you were so hammered down, didn't lift, and the G forces were up so high. G Dubs is pretty
Yep.
seasoned in that, done lots of 30 lappers, done 30 lappers with 410s, finished second before in an all-star race. So I think that really helped him out, that kind of experience. And yeah, kicked Stenhouse's butt. That's our boy.
Yeah, that's our boy. Ryan Timms was the feature winner on Friday night. Just
Smashed him.
taking a look through, you mentioned Dylan Westbrook. He brings it home second. How about Paulie Colagiovanni? Not one of our Canadian guys, but a guy who won the Sprint Car Nationals, one of them up here this past season, and he brought it home seventh. Jacob Dykstra ends up bringing the
That's
5D home to
one to
10th.
talk about because he was running. Jacob had an awesome run Friday night. Won his heat. Was running third for a lot of the time, and then the video didn't catch it, but apparently he spun down the front straightaway, but did a 360 and kept it going. You kind of like in the one shot, you just catch him like hanging the right rear off forward, but then it goes off of him, and then they say it overcome. But anyway, still finished 10th. He had a heck of a night, and good run for Jacob. But then Saturday he didn't even make the show, which sucks. But like his time trials, they were doing group time trials, and it was like a drag race. It was so tight, like first through six was all within like 0.1, 0.2 of a second. So that night, just couldn't quite get into the invert like he did the first night, and that just goes to show, like the second night, Ryan Timms, who won the first night by literally over half a lap, was in the B main. That's just how crazy it was.
Yep.
One night Poirier didn't qualify, and then Saturday night I believe he was seventh. So
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I mean, continuing with the Friday night feature, just to shout out a couple more of our guys. You mentioned Dykstra, and I was wondering kind of what happened with him because he started fourth, so he was
he was
up there,
wheeling her.
and then ended up one lap down, finishing 10th. So a loss of 6 positions. But yeah, if you spin and able to keep it going, that's kind of going to explain that. But still, I think you should be proud bringing home a top 10 like that. Another guy, Liam Martin, started 16th, brought it home 16th in the 9M. And you mentioned him having to battle that extra couple laps difference than what they would see up here, especially with the distance of the racetrack as well. Glenn Stiers brings it home 19th, and was that the debut of the new
Heck
Glenn
yeah,
Stiers chassis?
sure was. And
So
Glenn had a better run on the Saturday, but car looked good, and then just kind of started struggling a little bit more when it was starting to get a little slicker. He seemed like he couldn't stick the black as good as everyone else, but that's learning curve and probably some a little bit driver too. And yeah, it's kind of like that because like if Liam Martin said he was getting tired, he said it right in the regional, like I said. So I'm sure other drivers were going
yeah.
through that.
And Garrett Green bringing home the 15 machine for Mr. Turner. Ended up with a DNF on that Friday night and brought it home 22nd. But the Saturday night, taking a look at things, Westbrook settles for 6th. The Jordan Poirier ends up 7th. Paulie Colagiovanni 8th. Liam Martin ends up in the top 10 as well. So congrats to him for getting the top 10. Big shout out to Liam for doubling down and coming back. Was there anybody else running a Glenn Stiers chassis down there, or
Negative.
was it just
Just
Glenn?
Glenn.
Yeah,
The
that's what I
Saturday
thought.
night it looked a lot better, and he was running in the top 10, and then got caught up in a mishap.
Yeah, I can see most of, or not most of the field, but large part of the field actually ended up DNFing in that one. So, and Garrett Green unfortunately was a part of that as well. So, tough break for some hometown favorites, or
Tyler
at least
Palace
hometown
was also down there.
representation.
Just he
Yeah,
didn't, but like good. He's probably learned so much down there, even though he didn't make the show each night. Saturday night he was running
yeah,
pretty good, and he learned a lot, and that's gonna suit him up perfect for Ashweekend because Ashweekend, that's definitely a faster place than there. So good experience for him.
yeah. Exactly right. That's what it comes down to, is just get your laps in, get your experience. That's something I wanted to talk to our interview a little bit later, Mack DeMan. I wanted to talk to him about how exactly do you get better in a sprint car. So that's something we'll talk with Mac. But something else we should finish off here. Some notes out of the dirt car world with specific changes to the Sportsman. And I don't know if you want to try to explain this, or you want me to read the do you want me to read it word for word and then you kind of want to interpret it, or how
You
do you
can
want
do
to do
that.
that? All right. So just some news and notes you may have seen from the Dirt Car Sportsman world. 2023 weight adjustments for Dirt Car Sportsman and Pro Stocks. For the Sportsman in particular, this is to, I guess, Rule 19.6 weight ballast. The minimum weight following the completion of any Dirt Car Sportsman race will be 2,375 pounds. And for all crate engines that all have the blue verification seals, 25 pounds for those, for all crate engines with black verification seals. So my understanding is the blue verification is basically how it comes out of the box from GM. Black verification means it's been rebuilt, correct?
Yep. So basically what they're trying to do here is combat a deal where when guys rebuild them, they've been blueprinting them, which isn't cheating them up, but it is making sure it's 100% to the rules. Whereas when they come from Mexico and stuff, like from the factory, like you can check every cylinder for the compression and stuff, and it's some come illegal from the factory. I've seen it, and then like they're all over the place where one side's illegal and the other side's nowhere close, and all stuff like that. So all they do is make sure every rule is perfect and all stuff like that, which I don't think is all that terrible, but yeah. And then so they have to weigh 50 more pounds if they do stuff like that. And there has been some guys cheating them up too and stuff like that. And that's why they had to go to the wire seal, because the dirt car, or like the initial GM seals, were getting too easy to mess with and stuff like that. And yeah, there has been lots of guys cheating them up, but there's also guys who are blueprinting them, which is just going to the rules and making sure every cylinder is what it's supposed to be, not like I said. So yeah. And then so yeah, 50, the only thing I don't like about this rule is like it's a little late in the season, so if guys got one rebuilt and then they could have bought a new one and saved the 50 pounds, who really knows? Or like other stuff, like say a guy just breaks a push rod or something and then has to go get it repaired. It's now considered a rebuilt or whatever, even though it's a tiny, not much of a fix or stuff like that. And then now he's got to tow the 50 pounds around, which that part kind of stinks. But I see they're trying to combat I know what they're trying to combat, the cheating and stuff like that. And there's also guys just blueprinting them, which isn't really cheating, but I guess it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's one of those things from a fan perspective, from my perspective up here. I don't really, I'm not going to be the person that sees the effect of this right away, but I can see where some drivers, especially drivers, I was kind of going through some comments, and I'll, I don't want, I'm going to say this, how do I say this politely? Some of the bigger drivers out there, I don't think this really affects them as much as some of the other drivers who are more in shape. We'll say, is that the best way to say that?
At the end of the day, yeah, it's just like a lot of the biggest cheaters in racing, and 9 times out of 10 are at the back.
Yeah. So I think I don't think it's going to change things too much. I think the guys who are at the front of the field last year in the Sportsman are going to be up there battling for it again. But again, it does seem kind of late to be making
50 pounds
any
is a
kind
bit of a
moves.
Like I can see like 50's a lot. 50's going to hurt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, take a 150-pound driver who is like 5'8" and 150 pounds. Now you're making him a 200-pound driver, right? So again, I can definitely see. You can definitely see the issue, right? So,
yeah,
but
some drivers were heated.
It'll be interesting to see.
Online.
It'll be interesting to see if anybody gets caught. Yeah, it's been interesting. If you're a fan, or if you have any friends or anybody on Facebook or social media that's a Sportsman guy, maybe go visit their posts and see who's happy and who's not anymore. But it's going to be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to the season. Like I say, I'm looking forward to schedule time. Hopefully that's soon. I haven't heard anything specifically. Otherwise, I would maybe try to break it here or something like that. But hopefully that's sooner rather than later. And speaking of exciting things, and we got Mack DeMan,
the highlight man.
So let's bring him into the show. The highlight man himself, Mack DeMan, is going to join us next on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. The Southern Ontario Dirt Show is brought to you by Ohsweken Speedway, Southern Ontario's home for Friday night excitement. For over 25 years, Ohsweken Speedway has promoted and played host to sprint car racing, with a new season of family-friendly events to be unveiled in the near future. Catch our own Travis Cunningham as he races weekly in the 360 division each Friday night in pursuit of a season-long championship. The Friday night lineups are rounded out by crate sprints, thunder stocks, and mini stock divisions as well. In addition to weekly racing, Ohsweken Speedway will also hold several marquee events for the Southern Ontario Sprints, the Action Sprint Tour in their West Series and National Series, as well as a visit from Canada's premier stock car series, the NASCAR Pinty Series, on August 14th and 15th for their only stop on dirt. Mark your calendars, as the 3/8 mile dirt track located in Ohsweken, Ontario welcomes drivers from across the country and beyond for the 19th running of the Canadian Sprint Car Nationals, which is scheduled for September 16th. To keep up to date with the latest news from the track, be sure to find them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For track information on policies, admissions, directions, and more, be sure to visit ohswekenspeedway.ca. That's OHSWEKEN Speedway.ca. Ohsweken Speedway, your home for Friday night excitement. The Southern Ontario Dirt Show is brought to you by Bicknell Racing Products. The last 40 years plus have seen Bicknell Racing Products grow to be an industry leader for racers and enthusiasts alike. Their St. Catharines location is home to 20,000 square feet of manufacturing and retail space, with a second store in Niagara Falls, New York, and a dealer network that continues to grow day by day to serve Southern Ontario, Western New York, and beyond. Bicknell Racing Products distributes Hoosier tires for much of Eastern Canada, New York, and even parts of Pennsylvania. BRP has everything you could need to keep your car performing at its peak with genuine parts from the manufacturer. They even have a technical support line committed to helping you with the most up-to-date information and feedback from racers and crew chiefs. Have you ever thought about a career in the automotive or racing industry? Now is your chance to take the leap with Bicknell Racing Products. They are looking for CNC machine operators, welders, and more to join their team this season. Please send all resumes to Dana Curving at BicknellRacingProducts.com. That's DANACURVIN at BicknellRacingProducts.com. For further information on Bicknell Racing Products and to find a dealer near you, visit BRP online at www.BicknellRacingProducts.com or on Facebook or at twitter.com/BicknellRacing. All right, and jumping on the show now, the highlight man himself, it's Mack DeMan joining the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. How's it going, Mac?
Really good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Well, appreciate you coming on. It's going to be, it's getting to that time. I'm sure. Are you starting to feel the itch to get back behind the wheel of something?
Yeah, for sure. Anything at this point. Yeah, watching Chili Bowl definitely gets you get your mind geared back up for race season and the new year.
I wanted to ask you right away because I thought of this today. Like, have you ever run the indoor TQ stuff?
Yeah. We took a car down 2 years, I think, before it got insane like it is now.
Yeah.
Back then there was only a couple, say, purpose-built cars, and even now they've gone from purpose-built cars to kind of exploiting the rules. They allowed the rules to allow 600s to run for a bit, but that was just supposed to be for the dirt cars to be able to come run indoors for a car count. But now they got guys building purpose-built TQ midgets with 10-inch wheels, which are only supposed to be on really, there's no outdoor 10-inch wheel TQ classes. So now it's like purpose-built, so much money. Guys just smash into each other. It's just, it's sort of turned my flame off of TQ midget racing indoors, especially. Yeah.
You wouldn't want to build one ever again.
No, I totally would. Oh,
yeah, I know.
No, I'd build one for sure. Someone else would buy the motor.
Yeah.
Some of the parts you smash up indoors for sure. No, just the whole engineering portion of it and building a car from scratch within the rule book. I love the fact that you can be Andy Jankowiak and have a small budget, per se, and just build a car out of some tubing in your basement and put a good motor in it. And if you know what you're doing with the TQ, you can be fast.
Yeah, Andy's just got normal suspension, right? Just normal shock locations, pro shocks, nothing fancy on that.
Yeah, twin.
He's the one that inspires me to try it, maybe too. Like just whip one
Exactly.
up. But you say the motor's the biggest problem now.
Yeah, and his wheels aren't even like Kaiser
No.
wheels. They're
probably all bent.
Aluminum junk wheels from like 1995 TQ midgets. Like
nice.
Yeah. He's like bolting halves together and centers together to make the widest possible tread that he can get.
So it can be done.
That's awesome. So, Mac, I wanted to ask you about the 2022 season because you had a pretty unique perspective of, really going for it in the 360s, but then you had that win dropping down to the crate class over at Oshweekend. So, just talk to us about getting behind the crate after being in the 360s and getting your confidence back, really, with a big win like that.
Yeah, I mean, we had a frustrating year, as I'm sure Travis did too. Just new chassis, new shocks, got Maxim chassis, FK shocks. You think you're gonna go out and light the world on fire, and it just doesn't work sometimes. It just, the car didn't adjust the way that my old cool chassis used to adjust, and I didn't even figure it. I was gonna say it took me a while to figure it out. I didn't even figure it out. Like, even at the end of the year, we were still throwing the toolbox at the car every week. Going down to the crate wasn't even planned. Austin, who runs the crate, he just had an exam on Saturday morning, I think. So he stayed in Windsor overnight, so he didn't have to drive out there in the morning. And we put that together like on Wednesday, I think, and we went racing on Friday. Got lucky to redraw the pole and just never looked back. It was a hammer down track that night with a heavy cushion. So starting on pole that night, especially, kind of gave us a bit of an advantage. I don't necessarily think we would have driven through the field like a hero, but my kind of track. And it was definitely cool getting back in a crate. Just there's no wheel spin. There's no horsepower. There's no jump on it. Like, you have to keep the motor wound up every chance you get. Like, coming to every restart, just dragging the brake and smashing the gas, trying to keep the RPMs like 300 higher than the next guy, right? Like, just different things you got to think about when you're running the crate versus 360.
Yeah. So talk about as a driver, how's like when you first started 360s, you kind of set the world on fire, got the highlight man nickname and stuff like that, won some races, and then had to switch to struggling. So talk about the highs and lows of that.
Yeah, for sure. Highs and lows. I think my third week out were for Nate. I T-boned Dan going into turn one and destroyed the car. Right, it's like my third race in a 360. I thought I'm gonna get the boot right away, and then I think we won 2 weeks later with a new car. So yeah, the highs and the lows of sprint car racing are definitely there. Um, and it was nice to go out and be fast and be running up there with Kruder and Dylan right away. And I mean, I think the Hills Racing team and just having Daryl and guys that have a really good baseline setup, they were a big help in that. Just being able to go out and hammer down flat foot and hot laps first time in a 360 and knowing that the car is going to do what it has to do helped a lot. But yeah, there's definitely highs and lows in 360 sprint car racing, and every year is different from the next. Like, the track this year was just like I made a living at the top of turn 1 and 2 for 3 years, and this year the top of turn 2 is like you couldn't be there. So yeah, just adjusting as a driver. I think last year I spent half the year probably buzzing my tires.
Sounds about right. That was me at Oshweekend too. I was decent at the other joints, but yeah, Oshweekend was no good.
So what, from a driver's perspective or a driver's standpoint, what exactly makes it that the track has changed? Is it the actual track layout? Is it how it's groomed, how it's prepared? What did you feel made Oshweekend different that maybe like hampered your style of driving?
Well, my style of driving, for sure, they cut down the top of turn 2. There used to be a lot more banking. I think it was so the stock cars could get off the track without launching themselves over the crest. Just taking that away, if you watch an old World of Outlaws video from Oshweekend, Brad Sweet and these guys used to launch off the top of turn 2 like no tomorrow, and you don't see cars doing that. Now we kind of get sucked towards the wall because the track flattens out so much as you come off the corner. Your right rear goes down and you just start getting sucked towards the wall instead of driving back down the banking, sort of down the straightaway. So cutting off the top of turn 2 definitely changed the track a lot. But they also move the walls out. Like, the turn 1 inside wall is out farther. Not that that would adjust my style of driving very much because I'm not down there a whole lot, but it just seems to sort of make it narrower. Like, same with turn 3 and 4. We all know that the blocks at the bottom of 3 and 4 have moved out over the years. You used to be able to throw a slide job into turn 3 right against the inside blocks, and you had miles until you hit someone on the outside. Now it's tight. You see, right now in a heat race, you're trying to throw a slider in turn 3 and 4. It's like, even in the feature, you saw Sheridan and Hansen get together. Even though he was right on his bumper going into the corner and he threw the slider, you can barely clear a guy these days. Like, it's changed a lot. It used to, you look at the old World of Outlaws races and there's 3 lanes of racing all the way through the corner. Now it's a lot narrower, really.
They're doing the work. Like, the wall's gone. They're going to put that new wall in, I think, right? So I'm hoping they're going to bring it back a little bit, like to a little bit before.
Yeah. Are they putting up? They're not putting a poured wall, right? They're not pouring a wall.
I'm not sure. I thought that's what I thought, but maybe not.
Yeah. I didn't think they would because they seem to take the blocks out like every friggin' 6 months and do something.
True.
Yeah. You pour a wall, you can't take
as long as they get the blocks straight, I'm good. Because I used to, like, when I used to be able to scrub that thing back in the mid 2010s, like, not get it flat. Apparently not anymore.
Yeah, this year it cost you 3.
Yeah, cost me a little bit.
The bottom feeder attitude, yeah, that got to you.
So Mac, the top gets you too.
Yeah, that one's got me too. I've got it everywhere. Top, middle, bottom.
Oh,
wrecked in all 3.
I was gonna say I haven't got the bottom yet, but I did. I smacked the wall coming out of turn 2.
Yeah. Yep. A bunch of us did. I felt better when more people did it later in the year. Like, Holly did it, Aaron did it, a bunch of us did it. So
yeah, okay, don't feel so.
I just did it the most. I led the league.
Means you got to drop that. Let's get those numbers down this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So, Mac, what's 2023 going to look like for you? Have you started to put together your plans? Is it just home races? You jumping on the SOS tour? What can we? Where can we see you this year?
Well, home plans mainly. I mean, with the crates and bar, they don't travel a whole lot. Sometimes they put a weekend together and go to Humberstone, or I don't. Oh yeah, we went to Brighton once because I won in their
You
car
won.
one time, but I don't think they've been back to Brighton a whole lot since. Honestly, we haven't talked about schedule a whole lot. It's like you guys, you got the car ready and you want to go. I'll drive it. Is usually there's no track in Ontario I can't get to within 2 hours, and um, yeah, whenever they want to race, I'm down to drive the car. Hopefully, we can put some 360 stuff together, at least for the big shows. Or, I don't know, maybe drive someone else's 360, a couple SOS races. I don't know. I saw that interview with Mike Farrell the other day. Maybe I'll drive Mike Farrell's car. Who knows?
Oh, I didn't watch that one yet.
I didn't even know he was in architecture. He does the same thing that I do. He's AutoCAD.
Yeah, I did know that.
Yeah, 4 Wide Designs. Who knew?
Yep. Okay, what
Yeah.
was I gonna go with? All right, your start in racing. Like I saw you post I think it was a road racing picture of your dad one
Yeah.
time, and I know you've got ties with Macarith and the TQs.
Yeah.
So give us your little Mack DeMan till now story.
So yeah, my dad raced Trans Am Corvettes, sort of like followed Ron Fellows' footsteps as like the guy in the back of the field. At the end of every season, he would buy Ron's chassis, buy his engines, and he'd get all new stuff from GM. Ron just lived down in Lauren Park here in Mississauga, and my dad lived 5 minutes up the road, so he was always leaning on Ron for help with the Trans Am car. Just my dad was just a racer, bought a brand new Corvette when he was 18 years old, and would change gears and change pistons and just change the transmission ratios and go to Mosport every weekend. That's what he did. And so like the first 5 weeks that I was alive, I was at Mid Ohio Sports Car Course. I was down in Texas the second weekend, and like 5 weekends in a row, I was in 5 different states. And then my mom was like, "That's that's enough. You got to find something local." So my dad, with the whole fabrication aspect of being able to sort of build your own thing, and he always knew Andy Macarith because he went to high school with the Macariths at TL Kennedy here in Mississauga. So he always knew in the back of his mind about the TQs, and I'm sure he watched them at Flamborough and stuff. And then so when he had to go local, he built his first TQ in my basement from scratch. Went out, got his ass kicked. He won one feature. He won one feature in 6 years, but he's proud of it because he built the car in my basement and went ahead and he always had the most aerodynamic car. My dad was so into aerodynamics. He had this huge diffuser underneath the car and showed up in like 1992 with this huge aero kit, and they made him take it all off. And he thought he was racing at Oswego. He's racing at like Flamborough.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, we raced TQ midgets until me and my brother. My brother's 2 years older, so he started.
That's what you started in? Oh, yeah, kart.
No, go-karts. My brother started in a go-kart at 8.
Yeah.
And you can't start until you're 8. So I was 6 years old, right? And I got a kart for Christmas too. And so I got to go to Sutton Racetrack and practice for a whole year. And every time we went to practice, my dad took the restrictor plate out. So we'd be out there passing we'd be like 100 pounds lighter than all the senior guys flying past them. And then we'd put the restrictor in for cadet, and we'd just spank everyone on Saturday. So, yeah, I got special permission to start racing at 7 because I had the whole year of practice underneath my brother. And then I won the cadet championship at 7. And then they lowered the official age to start to 7, I think, because it just showed that a 7-year-old can win like the 7 to 10-year-old age group. Mm-hmm. And then from there, just race go-karts again, cheap, shove them in the back of the Suburban. Finally got an enclosed trailer when I was like maybe 12 or 13. And then I won a bear, so I won the Canadian 4-stroke championship, which is at Mosport, Mosport at Shannonville, the bear race. That was the biggest win of my go-karting career, and that was probably like the second last race I ever did in a go-kart because that's the end of the season. And then I started racing TQs when I was 16 years old. When you turn 16 and you still race go-karts and you're in high school, it's kind of like,
Oh, I know.
You still wear. Oh, cool. You race go karts. Oh, cool. So I was
Hmm.
like, okay, maybe I'll try these TQ midgets, and now I think they're just TQ midgets, but at the time, I thought they were badass, and so we started racing TQs. My dad knew who to go to. Andy Mackerith was the fastest guy always, so we called him up, did a practice session, just rekindled that relationship between my dad and Andy, and like I just got engaged last Saturday, so here I'm going through making a wedding list, and for sure Andy Macker is coming to my wedding. Like, he's like a second father to me. I mean, I would go to the shop sometimes without my dad and just work on the car with Andy, and just tinker away at it, scale it, do whatever. Because a lot of the time in the TQs, I'd go to the track by myself, and my dad would go to the cottage, Andy would go to his cottage, and I would just call them for advice after practice and after the heat race. So a lot of our prep was done in the shop, and we'd scale the car, and they would just ship me off with the best piece possible, and then I had to do the rest.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So with your dad's background in Trans Am, did you ever have the bug to try to go road racing
Oh
and
yeah.
pursue that as opposed to how did first I guess you had that interest, but how did you end up instead of going down that road, you end up in the dirt world?
Yeah. So when you're 16 and you want to go Formula racing, your Formula Ford or 2000 or 1200, it's money. Like it's expensive. It's a 3 day weekend, right? Like go karting, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I we were done with that, right? We just if we could race Saturday, from 3 p.m. until 10 p.m. and then have the rest of our weekend off, that was good. So TQ midgets looked really good, um, and just even TQ midgets, it got too long, right? You go to Sunset Speedway at 10 a.m. for practice. No thanks.
Yeah,
Like
it's rough.
I'm not doing that. Like I go to Oshweekend at 5:30 p.m. and I go home at 11. It's
Mhm.
awesome. Are you kidding me? Like
Yep.
sign me up. I got Saturday and Sunday to do whatever I want. Um, Oshweekend just came because the bars were in TQ midgets and they wanted to go try the crate sprint division, and I'm not going to say no to an awesome sprint car ride. Never sat in a sprint car. I'd been to Oshweekend once in my life, and I sat in the grandstand to watch a World of Outlaws race. And I thought it was nuts. I thought these guys were crazy. I sat in turn one. And I remember getting pelted by dirt.
Yep.
I bought a Joey Saldana Budweiser car T-shirt, and I was just like, "Wow!" My dad brought me, and I was probably only like 2 years away from racing there. And my first race at Oshweekend was like, I'm telling you, my first race watching it, I was probably like 17 years old. I didn't even know the track existed.
Yep.
No idea.
That's crazy.
I honestly, I had no idea the track existed. I had never heard of Brighton, Humberstone, and I raced TQs for like 5 years. I had no idea.
Wow.
That's a little bit of
It's
a
like the
pavement
best kept
snob.
secret.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw somewhere, right? This is Facebook only started really getting big in, I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
in like high school, like grade 2008, 2009, 2010. See, there was no events, there you couldn't see that people were going to Oshweekend. There was no live stream or anything.
Yeah.
Now it's like it's happening on Friday night. It's just like,
Yeah.
are you gonna go? And I think a lot of the asphalt world is definitely that there's way more eyes on Oshweekend than there used to be. Like I see tons of asphalt people that I know from the asphalt world walking through the pits, and they're
Yeah.
getting their dirt fix because you
And then
can't
half
do.
the crates are from that world too now.
Yeah, oh
And
for
you
sure.
started it.
Well, kind of.
Kind
I'd
of.
say Josh Shantz was the first year. Like I came in the second year, but
Yeah.
like in terms of asphalt guys that really jumped into it, like Josh Shantz and maybe a couple other guys there at the beginning.
Mm.
But yeah, the TQ midget guys definitely followed me. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So, Mac, do you have one win? You kind of gave a little glance at the camera for those listening. He's got a pretty decent little trophy case behind him in the view of this. And is there one trophy? Is there one win of your career that stands out more than any particular other ones do, or one that's a bit more special to you?
Uh, there. I mean, my first 360 win was pretty special. I didn't think I'd ever get to run a 360 out this weekend. Um, that was just cool. Like watching 360s in a crate for 4 years, and watching guys rip the top and stuff. It was just like those guys are badass, and to be able to win a race was in like my 5th race or whatever was cool. I'll always remember that. My most memorable race though is in Pennsylvania in the Tiki Midget at Lake Erie Speedway. I cut my neck open. I don't know. I have a big scar on my neck. I cut my neck wide open when I was like 20, and I was leading the points in the TQs. And so we had a 3-week break in our schedule, the only 3-week break of the year, right when I cut my neck. So I had 2 weeks to heal in the hospital, and then I got my staples out of my neck on Thursday, and we went racing on Saturday. And me and my dad convinced my mom to let me go down and do 1 lap in the heat and 1 lap in the feature to get my toe points. So I didn't fully get out of the championship, maybe just dropped like 3rd and could fight my way back. And when we got down there, you know, I did 1 lap in the heat race, and so that I didn't get any trouble. And then I did 1 lap in the B main, and then the feature, I had my dad strap my helmet to the roll cage so that if I felt pretty good, I could maybe pick a couple slow guys off. And I started 13th, and I ended up passing for the lead with like 3 laps to go. And then I pulled into victory lane, and the interviewer guy, I couldn't get out of the car because I was someone had to undo the ratchet belt that was holding my head to the cage. And the interviewer guy came over, and he's like, he puts the microphone away. He's like, hey, what do I do? How do you get out of here? And the interviewer had to undo the ratchet belt and let me get out of the car. And then he saw my neck, and he was like, it's like a friggin' open flesh wound pretty much at the time. And so we got home, we had the points lead, and my mom didn't talk to my dad for like 2 weeks. But
Doghouse.
He just kept saying it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. The fucking kid stayed out on the track.
Mack did it.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? The kid stayed out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did what he was supposed to. He did what he was told for the heat race and the B. The fucking kid stayed out there. I felt great, right?
Yeah.
I felt fine. You got dual headrest and your head's ratchet belted to the roll cage.
That's a Jack Hewitt trick.
I got there's a GoPro video on YouTube from my onboard camera. You can't tell my neck's cut open, but I'm backing out of passes early. I'm like being super cautious the whole race, and I'm running second with like 5 laps to go, and the guy in the lead, I'm pretty sure he blew his motor with 2 laps to go. And I remember thinking, there's no way I'm winning this race. My mom's gonna kill me. No, there's no way. So I'll always remember that one for sure.
That's a heck of a story. I didn't know
That's
that
a
one.
great story.
Minus the neck part.
Yeah.
Yeah, TQs are dangerous. I was going to say that part. And they're all like when they were at Kawartha back in the day, they were almost like just half a second slower than the super modified. So
yeah,
like,
Lake Erie's bigger than Kawartha. Same size. It's like you.
Is it faster because it's like more sweeping?
In the TQ, you lay the wing flat.
Yeah.
And you literally just lift on entry, let the car rotate to the right side a bit, and you just hammer it. Like, there's no torque or power in those cars, especially with such a tall gear in it. Like, fast track, really fast.
Yeah.
That's why I was backing out of all the passes. I didn't want to crash at that speed. My head would fall off my body and probably roll down the track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild stuff. All right, well, we'll get you out of here on this one, Mac. We'll give you our Canadian Penny Memorial question that we stole from Corey LaJoy's podcast. If I'm gonna give you one race car, one racetrack to race the rest of your life, what's the combination you're going with?
Holy cow! Wow, I do a lot of iRacing. I'm telling you.
Add me up.
It's probably gonna be a road course. It's probably
That's
gonna
fine.
be like
That's fine.
Porsche GT2 RS at Mosport.
All right. Ooh, that's a good pick.
Could do it forever.
That's like the GT3 one? Or?
GT2 RS.
What's that?
A GT3 RS is the like GT3 series that you see.
Yeah.
But that's a mid-engine all-wheel drive Porsche. Whereas a GT2 RS is a true race car, rear-wheel drive, launch control, fucking 760 horsepower race car.
Ooh.
Dan Nanticoke has a GT2 RS, and he has a GT2 RS Club Sport, which is a race car. It's not even street legal. It's got a carbon fiber steering wheel, and
so I've seen that one.
That thing would lap Mosport. Yeah, you've seen it in the photos.
Yeah,
that thing would that's my dream car right there. That thing would lap Mosport faster than any Trans Am car, and it's stock. It's GT2 RS and Mosport.
Dan hasn't let you try it yet?
No, I wasn't invited.
Not yet. No.
I'm not part of the team anymore.
Oh, yeah. Maybe rent a ride.
Yeah, might have to.
I'm sure you can figure something out. We'll sort you something out. Well, whatever the plans get when they get announced, and whatever you get up to, best of luck in 2023. And I hope that we'll be chatting down the road with some more victories under your belt.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, John. Appreciate having me on. Best of luck with the podcast, and yeah, thanks for having me.
Cheers. That's Mack DeMan on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. And the checkered is out on another episode of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe for future episodes. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Southern Ontario Dirt Show. Have a question for the show? Email us, southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com. Thanks for supporting local racing in Southern Ontario, and we'll see you at the track.